got a couple. You be quiet. You didn't raise your hand. And then we'll go on with the agenda for the night. Nate, if you just say present. Present. Ellie,
You're present.
John Bergeron. Present. If I call you by your first name and not your whole name, it's because we've known each other for a while. Dan.
Here.
Cindy.
Here.
Mike.
Present.
Dennis.
Present.
Sadie.
Here.
Karen.
Here.
Look at that, we're all here. And Mike Sampson is sitting at the end of the table. Sharon is recording for us, doing the Zoom. And for Roger's sake, we have two guests.
They signed in.
What?
They signed in. I have the.
If you would just give your names so Roger can have it.
Salvatore Persia.
Okay,
Angie Robinson.
okay, thank you.
I just left it in the back.
I didn't
And
see you.
somebody, well, I thought somebody else might come in later.
Is it all right, Roger? Just
Yeah.
you let me know. Okay, that's the agenda. First thing we'll do is go ahead, and it's not on the agenda, we'll do the minutes from April. Everybody got a copy, had a copy mailed to them.
I'll move to approve.
All right, Sadie, move to approve. A second. Second by John Bergeron. Any questions? Any deletes? All right,
Yeah, I know I'm gonna be sorry saying this, but I'm still upset over it. There's no mention in the minutes about the fact that there was an attempt made to have a secret vote, which is a violation of the New Hampshire State Constitution, as well as RSA 91A. And I know if I make a motion, you won't get a second and it won't go in here. But I'm just gonna put it out there because it scares me to death. Because this is what's been going on in our federal government and a lot of other places. That the citizenry has given up a lot of its responsibility with government. And then somebody a long time ago said that the price of liberty is eternal vigilance. And in all the years I've been on the budget committee, nobody has ever tried to take a secret vote into one. And I don't know where people got the idea that there was ever such a thing. But if you swore an oath to the Constitution, Part 1, Section 8 mentions it, RSA 91A mentions it, and the oath clearly states that you will uphold the laws of the state of New Hampshire as well as the federal government and the Constitution. And to do otherwise is a violation of that oath, and anybody that does it should be removed from office. So fortunately, because I was here, and Dave McAllister backed me up, it didn't happen. So there's really probably nothing that I can do. But I just want it out there that if it ever happens again, I will sue you.
all right, duly noted. And Roger, would you put that in the minutes? Did you?
The minutes are usually, but I would mention that I put things in that are factual that happened at the,
Yeah.
it's not sort of a he said, she said, this might have happened, that.
No, I understand it, and
It's sort of
there's
recorded
no
for
finger
history.
pointing here. I just
Right.
wanted clarified in the minutes that was noted, and I do remember it very clearly.
Because he
And
said,
it-
I think she's right.
In the future, we all know what the rules are. So we won't do it again. Okay? We won't let it happen as a committee.
Would you remind me to recall what the secret was for, what the secret vote was for?
To replace, Steve
Steve.
Tree,
Freeze.
his empty seat.
Yeah, it was just to make it clear for the minutes, it was me. And I just wasn't thinking, I was thinking of a different context. I don't disagree. And I didn't think Ellie said, I just wasn't paying attention.
Well, what upsets me is that only one person backed me up, and every single person on the budget committee took an oath to uphold the Constitution and abide by the laws of the state of New Hampshire, and two of you are, or have been attorneys. And I assume that a justice of the peace should know that.
Well, Ellie, I mean, if you're talking about interpretations of statute that none of us here are being asked to do, my recollection was that Mike made the suggestion, perhaps thinking it was along the lines of an executive session.
Wasn't made any
It
difference.
doesn't
Yes,
apply
you're
to
right.
them.
But no, I know that, but I'm saying we discussed it and we came to the conclusion that it wasn't gonna happen, so.
Well, then it should be in the minutes.
Well,
And
let's
you can
not-
even
let's-
name me if you want.
let's not
I don't care about
start
names.
blaming
I'm serious
people
about
for
it.
what happened. We know what went on. It won't happen again because we all know better.
Yeah, but
And if I miss it, please step up. Don't hesitate. Remind me. Ellie reminded us of the statutes, and quoted. it. And when she said that, we move on. But, it's duly noted.
Yeah, and Ellie, I want to make it clear that the reason that I stayed quiet is because I don't know my RSA's well enough to have a voice in it.
you should know. it.
I do now.
That's one you should know in RSA 32.
Mhm.
I mean, I read it weekly.
I get it, but at that point, I didn't,
But when
so-
you swear an oath to uphold the Constitution, you should know what it says.
oh, believe me, I've been advocating for that for a year and a half, and I've stepped out of the box on my end too,
So when
so.
you take that oath, I remember this distinctly when Jamie Dukoski ran, for budget committee, he had a Facebook page. And that's one of the things he said, some people asked him on the Facebook questions about what a budget committee member did. But this was the first time he ever ran for public office in Canaan that I know of. And he was able to tell people exactly what he was supposed to be doing. So he knew before he even ran, and I wish he was still here. But he had, a lot of other commitments and it didn't really work out for him. But if somebody like him, who is a full-time professor, at a reputable college, can do that in his spare time and raise two children and be happily married, I don't see why any of the rest of us can't do the same. And when I first got on this committee, I went for training at the local government center. And that's one of the first things, I mean, they have a whole session on the right to know law. And every public official is eligible to go. Assuming that the town will pick up the cost, and even if you can't go to Concord or wherever they have the sessions, they have a lot of them online now, and I'm pretty sure that that's one of them.
Okay, Ellie, we're gonna move on. I think your point is taken.
Well, it's very important.
Yeah, I agree with you. It is important and we all understand it. So we're gonna move on with the minutes. I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes as written. Duly noted Ellie's comments for the next set of minutes. We'll go ahead and everybody in favor, I'll do a voice vote. All those in favor of the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Abstain.
Okay. All right, the minutes are done. Now, the next thing on the agenda is Zoom. We have to discuss tonight as a committee. Do we want to continue with Zoom or not? And it's a committee. Anybody want to speak pro, con, whatever you want to do? John,
The planning board had this same question this week. And what they decided to do was put on the agenda, which they publish before every meeting, a note at the bottom that says, if you want to connect by Zoom, please contact us, otherwise it's not available. So we're just doing it on demand. If somebody asks to be on Zoom before the meeting, we'll set up Zoom and we'll have it Zoom. And if it's
that's before the meeting.
yeah, if we hear about it before the meeting, Then
So
we'll-
we would need what, 48 hours, you think, John?
Yeah, we just decided to do it last Thursday and I haven't written it up yet.
Okay, yeah,
What are the,
Some minimum amount of time.
all right.
What are the
And what I'm gonna
disadvantages?
ask, is somebody put up their hand if they
Yeah.
wanna speak, and
Yeah.
then I don't get,
got-
because I might miss things.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Dan, go ahead.
Go ahead, you were first, go ahead.
No, I
Okay.
just making a point.
My question is, what are the disadvantages to having Zoom? Why would we not want to?
It's a cost.
It costs money.
It isn't free.
And it limits where we can meet too. We have to be here. And I have a real problem, I'm sorry, it's probably out of turn, but I have a problem turning over control of this committee to town employees.
I don't understand.
Because Sharon's in charge of it, she's not part of the budget committee. If you wanna have somebody from the budget committee be in charge of the Zoom, I'm okay with it, but otherwise, no.
But in the case of the planning board, the reason we backed off from it is because we have to take one of our members to run the Zoom meeting, because we don't have a Sharon to run it for us, so it was taking attention away from, because it's a pain to run Zoom. There's always something going wrong and you gotta chase things and people aren't muting and it's a hassle to do it. And if you got a person like Sharon who's there to take care of all the technical nitty gritty, it's great.
The fee for Zoom, isn't it an annual subscription and then it's, or do you pay per meeting? How
We're
does that?
paying this person right up here on the end.
I'm sorry, what,
You're paying me to be here.
okay,
I'm not volunteering.
But in the case of the planning board, it's a one-time fee paid by the town. And you have an unlimited number of meetings, so it doesn't cost any more to do the planning board on top of the budget, on top of the selectmen, on top of it. It's just one fee for the whole town for all the meetings.
You'll see.
I think in the spirit of transparency, I would recommend keeping it.
Dan,
I agree with Sadie.
Anything that broadens the audience is a good thing.
I guess I would have to ask someone that knows how many,
I just wanted to comment that. How many people like used it in the past 2
I was
years?
just gonna say that
we
I
have?
sent you an email on it. I think it was less than half a dozen
the whole year. So it's a half a dozen people
for 2 years.
for the budget committee.
Well, it's not in the minute. So if it's not in the minute, it didn't happen. as far as I'm concerned.
There's more than a dozen in some meetings.
I'll look back at my minutes. and how it should be, but-
Yeah, okay.
I'm in favor of ending it. My only consideration would be if, the new administrator, Ned, until he moves here, if he needs to participate, I would love to see him be able to participate if he wanted to, so, it's up to you guys about that part. That's the only thing that I thought, there's no real reason to have Zoom, there's no one really using it, even tonight, there's no one on here, so. But I did think about Ned in, for a small time until he can get a house in town, he may need to have evening meetings also. At least,
Yeah, I just have another point about that. If you want public participation, it doesn't have to be Zoom. There are other options, like if we have a member that's ill or can't make a meeting, you can do it by telephone as long as you can hear and talk back and forth both ways. Right, John?
Right.
That's 91A, Rule 91A, please read it.
I have read it, and
Yeah, Dan.
one of the things I think we're trying to move forward with into the future with Canaan is bringing us into this century with the rest of the country. And transparency, accountability, and the ability to interact is important. And just because there's no one on there doesn't mean we should take the right away for them to go on there.
It's expensive.
How expensive is it? How much you getting paid tonight, Sharon, to sit here?
At least $50.
you meet for 2 hours this week,
2 hours is $50. How many times do we meet per year?
ish,
How many?
8-ish, right?
8.
Yeah, Steve and I. Yeah.
I don't think that's gonna break the bank.
Well, it's not coming out.
Oh, it's $400.
Why do you think the selectmen's budget?
Sadie,
Well, I
go
know
ahead.
this
Ally?
one, so-
I think the
Okay,
way to
Ally.
determine what we
I
want to do
guess
is
so.
to have a vote. So I move that we keep Zoom. We'll vote and we'll see.
I'll second that.
The second, all right, we'll go right around, John.
As long as we got Sharon, yes.
Yeah, and let me jump in. I'm not in favor of taking somebody off this committee to run Zoom.
No,
I know what the budget committee entails as far as accuracy. Do not do that.
I would like to amend my motion to say that we keep Zoom and that we have a town employee that runs it.
Other than the budget committee.
A town, well,
Yeah,
The second is fine.
yeah, okay, that's all right. Is that all right, Roger? You get that? Yeah.
Have town employee
Okay.
maintain it.
Don is saying yes, as long as it's done by someone else. Ellie,
No,
no. Nate,
Well, I have to qualify because I would be in favor of having it if somebody in the community shows interest. I don't like the idea of just spending money to have it there in case somebody might want to show up. So I don't know how to vote on that. I guess I'm a no.
okay. And what we're talking about is full-time Zoom. We're not talking about part-time Zoom when we're voting. So everybody's clear on it? Okay. I vote no. John was a yes. Dan,
Yes.
Cindy,
Yes.
Mike, Reese.
I would say no for the same reason that Nate described. I think right now, no one's using it, but we should be open-minded to resuming it if there was more
Yeah.
interest.
And I agree with you. I think if there's interest in the public,
Then I'm
and we
first
get
to vote yes.
feedback from the public saying,
First of all, yes, if there's interest.
all right, if there's interest. So right now, there's no or yes.
No.
Sadie,
Yes.
Karen,
yes,
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I got 5 yeses, 1, 2, 3.
Dennis
Cool.
didn't vote yet.
Ellie, what?
Dennis didn't vote.
Oh, I'm sorry, Dennis. Forgive me, sir. I'll say you.
I'm in agreement with Mike and Nate, no, but
Oh.
if there's a need for it, yes, but. so
Yeah, and that's, I think primarily, yes, Roger.
Yeah, I think you have to understand, and I work for 7 different school boards over the years, and the National New Hampshire School Boards Association is all in favor of this. It's more about, frankly, what might happen, not what is happening. If you have a controversial issue, that will be loaded. And I've seen it in Lebanon with the SRO discussion. There's 50 people on there when they talk about that. Otherwise, there's nobody on there. So it's more about keeping your options open. Secondly, I'm not always going to come here. So I would prefer to be able to help you with, if I can follow it with Zoom. Because occasionally I have conflicts and stuff with other accounts.
Okay.
But I thought I probably should have said that stuff first before I have voted no. But I think those are really a big part of what the factors are.
All right.
One more point.
Yes, Ellie.
I also sit on the, school budget committee. We've never done it, ever. And the school board did it for a while, but they did away with it. I can't remember the reason. I think they said it was too expensive. But they do use YouTube. So you can watch it on YouTube, but you can't ask questions, but you can watch it. And it's also, you can watch it after the fact. too. So if
I
you
don't
miss
think it matters. We already voted no,
So.
right?
We didn't.
I think.
Okay, what I have is 1, 2, 3,
The 10 of you?
4, 5, 5 no's
Oh,
Motion fails.
Would we miss
and 5 yeses.
yes.
So,
I don't know the 5th person.
and I think later on, we can still discuss this at any meeting. So don't think that this is closed.
Sends a bad message to
Huh?
the taxpayers.
It
I think
sure
it sends a
does.
bad message to the taxpayers, but
How did you do that? I sat on it for 17 years and we never had it. Is that a
Well,
bad message?
I think that was in a time that was different, and I think because we've had it and now we're taking it back, that it could look like, what are you trying to hide? Why are you taking this back? And I think especially when we start looking at the CIP and how much we're gonna be spending in the next couple of years, and we close down the Zoom, but we've already voted. that's what I.
Yeah,
No,
that's all right.
It was voted down unless it was requested, right?
Yeah.
I don't
It's
think
just, we're
that
just
was- that
stopping
was
it
not part
as
of
an
the motion.
automatic. but if
Well,
something-
That- No,
Someone can
that
make a new
wasn't part
motion.
of the motion. Make another
John.
motion.
But it was the motion to hold, right? And the motion was defeated because it was a tie.
Yes.
Right.
So it's still up to the chairman to decide whether he wants to do it or not.
Well, here,
I
Now you
voted
voted
no.
There's 10 people.
No, what I'm
Oh,
saying.
yeah, okay, I see what you mean.
I'm saying, because the motion was defeated, It
Yeah.
doesn't change anything, and it's like we were,
Right.
last week.
Well, you have to, you have the prerogative as chairman to do whatever you want, so you don't even
Thank
have
you,
to.
Ellie.
Well, you don't have to even ask us. You
We
can
all-
do what you want.
That is recorded. That was Ellie saying.
So as Mike was asking, would it be available in the future? That was not part of the initial motion, but if you feel that that was valuable, you could move for that and we could vote on that.
Well, as chairman, I'm saying it is available if we needed it in the future. And Roger brought up a good point. And I recognize that not every night that he's going to be here. And all he's going to get is this.
Which works well, by the way. I've used
Okay,
it for many
but
years.
still,
Right.
that's what we have available.
Right.
All right, anybody wanna jump right in here with both feet?
Before you leave it, I want you to know what you want on the website. So you'll have to come up with, do you want it to have like John's thing where you need to let people know, or we're just gonna take it off and not say anything?
No. On the
So,
website,
you
we're,
Because right now it
if
says,
people have a interest in it, we will bring it up again, and I don't have a problem with that.
so should they email me if they want? it,
Yes,
And then I'll let you know
yes,
that.
and we'll
it's
see
been
what kind
requested.
of feedback we get from the public. Is that all right with everybody? We'll get the feedback from the public.
Yeah, I'm gonna send some words to her to put on the website relative to the planning board. And we probably can use those very same words for the budget committee. It's gonna be an on-demand situation. Is that a signal?
No, there was
Okay,
a
all
fly.
There's a little one flying around.
Yeah.
Wait for them all.
I didn't know what was going on there.
I don't know if that's clear
Yeah.
to everybody, but what John is going to do, what the planning board decided was, the next planning board meeting is on September 25th, 7 o'clock at the Muskoma Clinic. If you would like to participate by Zoom, please let us know 48 hours ahead of time. That's how it is. Otherwise, there's not gonna be a Zoom setup.
Is that a possibility?
Yeah.
On the website?
Yeah. It
So,
would probably,
That
I would-
seems to be,
if I know by
makes more
Tuesday, I can
sense.
rearrange.
Yeah,
my schedule.
Yeah, and I agree with that, Mike. Everybody else okay with that? We'll put that on the website on the flash. If you are interested, please contact Sharon.
Before a certain
It needs to be
Yeah.
on Tuesday. I
Yeah.
need to know on a Tuesday to do it on a Thursday to read.
All right, so you put that on the website. Nate, you okay with that?
Oh, yeah, I think that's great.
All right, everybody else? All right, let's move on to what we're being paid for. Expenses, Mike is here to give us a lowdown. You have two handouts in front of you. Once again, if there's any questions, please stop, ask the question. And I'll take a raise of hands to ask a question. Not everybody fire it at him at once. All right, Mike, the show is yours.
Okay, this is the first night and I'm just doing an overview. I've been working on the budget for 3 months and frankly, I didn't have it in vaguely or resembled a budget until about 4 days ago. So at the very top of the first page, the thing that says 2023 CPI, it's in red. So we have historically used that as the index of what happens on wages. And we take it 12 months back from the number announced in September. The number announced in New England, across the board for everybody in New England, and primarily on the rural part of New England, was 7.4%. That's the easy part. So one way of looking at it is everybody went up 7.4%. The bad part of it is during the course of this year, at least half of the employees have come in and met with the board and asked for changes in pay, either because of longevity or because of skill sets and being able to do more, not getting compensated for it, or they hadn't had an evaluation and they were waiting to get an evaluation completed before they got a pay increase. And in some cases, because their job changed, they had a whole different responsibility. If you count all of those wages, it's about $200,000 in new wages in this budget. Okay? Important because you're gonna get to a number that's 500,000. So that's the first number, is what happens in payroll. It also includes a part-time employee, and that's Wayne Hagan. Wayne Hagan filled a vacancy in the police department for a year. And it worked out very well, and the police department wants to continue it for the next year on a part-time basis. And the reason is Wayne Hagan's got tons of experience in preparing cases for trial. And some of our officers have very little experience. They're all licensed, certified officers, but they don't have a lot of experience. So the idea is to use Wayne to prepare all the cases that go to trial. And Sam asked that that be included. It's in this budget, it's $33,000. The next issue that's come up is equipment. And Sadie already made a reference to it. We have a new a new highway superintendent. And he made a very impressive case the other night to the CIP committee. We've got tons of equipment that is virtually terrible, not virtually, is terrible. And he came in initially with a proposal to buy 5 pieces of equipment at least purchased, which we have not used historically. And they also wanted to replace a couple of other trucks this year. And the problem with that is it front end loaded the CIP budget. So that meant that the budget had to raise an extra $200,000 to $300,000 in the first 3 years. That's difficult. It means we would have to go up in taxes, $300,000. So we've been talking about the CIP committee, and I'll tackle it at the tail end. But it was a need, and the need basically is $100,000 right now. So the cost of equipment needs to have another $100,000 thrown into the kitty to buy this equipment. And this is all the major equipment, primarily in the highway, but part of it is also in the fire department. Some of the equipment is very expensive. So some of the trucks, like fire truck, went up by $300,000, $400,000. Ambulances initially came in at $250,000 more. And John Hennessy took it back and worked on and dropped it back down. So pretty much a push at this point. It does need more money. It needs $10,000, but that's not a huge number. So equipment is still an issue. How much? About $100,000. So far you're up to about $300,000. Electricity, oil, diesel, and propane are all fuels, and the costs have gone through the roof. We were advised 3 or 4 weeks ago that Liberty they've already gone up 100%, and they were planning on going up another 50% next year. This budget does not reflect all of that increase. I think it is likely that what will happen is that the fuels will go back down. They already have gone back down, at least on gas. Not all the way, but instead of being a 100% increase, I think it's more like a 25% increase. Right now, it's budgeted as a 25% increase. If it turns out in December that's not going to happen, that it's still going to be high, then this will have to be changed again. The dollar amount on all of that is about $100,000 for fuel and electricity. So that's propane, and electricity, and oil, both fuel oil and diesel. The next part is health insurance. We don't know what the number is. We won't know it until November, the end of November, beginning of December. I put it in as a 5% increase. Whatever comes in will only apply for the second half of the year. So theoretically, at least, it could be 5% and really be closer to 10% overall, with the other 5% occurring in the following year. But again, can't do anything about it until we see what those rates are. There were some concerns. Some of the employees wanted to go back to the old plan. If we had done that, it would have raised the cost even more than what's in here. So the cost for increasing health insurance is about $15,000 right now. It's not a huge number for health insurance. That's at 5%. Paving. We have 2 lines on the budget that are road reconstruction, and typically part of it is used for rebuilding dirt roads, and the other part is used for paving. Here's the fact. I got here 12 years ago. the amount of money budgeted for paving has not changed one nickel in 12 years. It's not realistic. I will say that most of those years, the actual cost of paving on a per ton basis did not increase much. You know, it increased maybe $1 or $2. So in the grand scheme of things, that didn't make much difference, but of course, with petroleum this year it does. Ellie?
Yeah, can I just ask, where is, paving in the budget?
Under road reconstruction, You'll see.
Okay, I see it.
you see it?
Yep.
If everybody else can't find it, I can tell you which page it's on, if that helps. It's
It's on fourth page.
yeah, page 4.
On the
And
thing up the
it's
door.
gonna be under, it's gonna be under road reconstruction and block grant. And you'll see there's a note on the far right-hand side that I increased the number up to 96,000 under the local part of road reconstruction, and that's to go into paving. It's a big increase, but frankly, if we don't do it, we're gonna have to do more and more road every single year, which means pay me now or pay me later, and this will at least keep it somewhat in mind. So that's paving, and that's 54,000 increase. Next one is building inspector. We broke up Sherelle's job. So the building inspector's job is now with John Hennessy, so he's taking it on with a stipend. Stipend is 10,000 a year. He's already in the job, he's already doing everything on building inspection work, and he's doing a good job on it. Can't fault him at all. Same thing for our health officer. We now have a new health officer. And right now, there's a budget amount. We budgeted how much she's getting for wages. It's basically, I think it's the EMT wage. She is an EMT. And she only gets it if she's out doing something for the health office. What's likely to be that is inspection of the schools. Our health officer has to inspect the schools. Our health officer has to inspect all the daycare centers. Our health officer has to deal with complaints that come in from neighbors because of nuisances. There's one right now that the health officer is going to be involved with. Those are the types of things that the health officer does. So it's roughly $20 an hour, so you can divide the $5,000 by 20, and that should be the hours that are necessary to do the job. That's it. So if you total all that, it's about $550,000 increases on a $4.5 million budget. It's not insignificant. All right, so I will say that 2 months ago, I gave the first report to the board and I said, well, right now, with all the requests of the commission of the department heads and from the employees, and the board's had meetings with employees throughout the year. Remember the highway department back in March, and at least 3 or 4 other employees have come in and talked to the board individually. And looking at all of that, the budget could have gone up 18%, and there's no way that's acceptable. This year, like every other year in the last 12, I asked the board for guidance in terms of what is the most that I can ask the voters for. And I gave the range. We could not give voters a budget that's only a 2% increase unless we can services. It's as simple as that. We would have to. A 2% increase would take $40,000 to $60,000 out of this budget, and it would have an impact. So the board looked at it and said, well, how much is this going to cost? And that's on the single page. Yes, go ahead.
I'm sorry, John, what were you talking? What were you talking about now?
Okay, so the total for this budget, okay, is on page 6. So the total for the budget, which includes all the capital reserve money going in, all the capital reserve money coming out. It includes warrant articles, at least the ones that were approved last year. Doesn't mean that they would be approved this year. Maybe not, because this budget is an increase. But counting all that stuff into it, the total budget goes up from 4.8 million to 5.3. Okay, it's about $500,000. It's a 10% increase in the budget. It will not be a 10% increase in taxes. And I'll show you why in a minute. Their budgets include the library budget, the water and sewer budget, and CEMS. CEMS has some equipment costs that have to be covered. On the other hand, they have just started a new service called private transport. So if you don't have an emergency call, but you gotta go stay with your Aunt Tilly, and you need to go by ambulance, they'll take you. It's a different rate. And a different licensure for the service. They have the licensure. They've already made at least 3 or 4 runs. Okay, already. The payback on 3 runs is enough to run the service for 3 weeks. So if you do 3 runs in 2 days, it will make money. So we evaluated, we being the board, myself evaluated the business model that they came up with. Very few changes in it, tested it out, and it looks like it will do the job and it will raise more money. And it will make sure they have the equipment that they're looking for. So it will not impact the general fund budget except during the first year. That's because they've only started the service. It's gonna take at least 6 months to grow it. We may already have enough money coming in by the end of the year. If we do, then we can drop the budgeted amount down by the 10 grand. There's 10 grand in play on that. So bottom line, 10% increase in costs, reasons, payroll, equipment replacement, electricity, oil, propane, health insurance, paving, health officer, building inspector. Those are the primary reasons, and that comes to a little over 500,000. That's the budget. The water budget has a lot more money involved because of all the construction. Sewer budget, both the water and sewer budgets are running online. They're balancing. So that's good. EMS is also running online. If you look at if you look at the bottom of the revenue budget, that's a single page, you're going to see the year-to-date on the EMS budget, 362,000 has come in on the CEMS budget, 362,000. And that's about 94% of the revenue needed for the budget. So that's good. However, there is under payroll a problem. We are getting fewer people turning out to be on call in the ambulance service. And the reason is primarily due to COVID and the reluctance of some people to put themselves in the target space for COVID. So they're trying something different and they're doing instead of on call, they're going to actually stage a person during peak hours to make sure that they've got coverage. It's the type of thing where if you tie that with the private transport, what it means is that as long as you do 1 call in that week, you can cover the per diem, which is to guarantee you got somebody to get in the ambulance and go see the patient. And also raise more money for the service. So it makes sense. We're gonna have to watch it and see how it works out. But so far, in the first week, it was pretty good. But it's too early. We'll have to wait and see what happens. So that is a money-making issue. Gonna switch gears. Any questions about the expense side? I mean, I'll be happy to take any details. Go ahead.
I'm just curious about, so it's basically using an ambulance as like a ride hailing service for people who need to get places.
Yeah.
And it makes money.
Yeah.
I'm just curious, how does it compare to the price for the getting an Uber? I mean, not that, I don't know if you can get one out here. So.
You know, these are people that need it.
They still.
They have to ride in it. We're not looking at taxi service.
Clarified, so they like have oxygen or they have some sort of.
Not a critical care, they may be in a wheelchair or handicapped or something, but they have medical issues. Yeah,
That makes sense.
Yeah, so Nate, you see some of random ambulances sometimes in the upper valley.
Yeah, without the lights on.
Claremont from a ways away. So those are doing the same service, and what it is there's a need. I went over and I'm actually trying to see if I still got the business model in here, and I'll hand it so you guys can look at it. But they've identified there's a real need and a lack of people that do that service.
Okay.
So a few years ago, there was a warrant article and the town voted to appropriate an ambulance for it. So the ambulance it's been being used a little, but basically sitting there waiting, and then they got the business model wrapped up. And when I can find it, if I still have it in here, I'll hand it to you. You
Okay.
can take it with you. But it's for transport of patients.
But we're only using that one ambulance, we're not sending all three out.
Correct.
Right.
It is a designated ambulance
Right,
for that
one,
purpose.
okay. Non-emergency use.
It's a smaller ambulance, like a golden
Cheaper
cross,
ambulance.
not like the big, yeah.
It's not a critical care and it's designed to provide emergency life support. If somebody is in trouble on the ride, but they're not gonna be doing thoracic surgery in the back of it, so.
Yeah.
Looks more like a van than it doesn't.
And quite frankly, the business models and already what they've done shows that there's a decent revenue there. It's a moneymaker. Yeah,
I think we discussed that when they first presented the warrant article.
absolutely.
3 or 4 years ago, when we examined no, even before that, when they built this addition. We asked for a business plan for Canaan Fastway. They gave it to us, and that business plan called for private transport. They never did it. They got the loan from the bank, they put the building up, never implemented private transport. There was somebody on the Fast Squad that was from California and told everybody in the Fast Squad, you never make money. Well, it's taken them exactly 1 week to prove that wrong, so it's the right thing to do.
Any other questions? Any questions from the public?
I'm gonna go to revenue if there are no questions.
Okay. Okay, let's move on.
Revenue is a problem, it's only 2 pages. So start at the top in the yellow box, this assumes that the actual tax base will go up 1.5%. That's what it went up this year, that's what it should go up next year. So that's what it's calculated on, is that there would be a 1.5% increase in taxes. Based purely on new garages, carports, new construction in the village, in the town. The next one, the next line down, under 2022, is in pink. So if you look to the left of it, in 21, it was 44,000. In 23, we estimated for next year 45,000. So far, as of about a month ago, we had taken in under current use change tax $250,000. So that will go into the unassigned fund balance. That's important over the next 2 or 3 years, otherwise we are not going to be able to balance the capital reserves unless we use that money to keep the costs out. So there is other money, and it's down below. The next pink box is halfway down the front page, and it says New Hampshire shared revenue block, and that says this year we got 136,000. Unexpected, 3 to 4 weeks. So roughly half of that money has already been, well, it hasn't been committed, but it will, the board will be asked to commit it. So actually, it has been committed by the board for the purchase of 2 new trucks. So we, as long as we have a hearing to say we got 136,000, roughly 65, 70,000 is going to go for those 2 new trucks. So that means this year we will have 3 new trucks. And the CIP committee, I think, did a really good job the other night of going through every vehicle and asking the condition of what each vehicle was. A Guy, who's our mechanic, and Bob, who's our highway superintendent. That'll be in the report, and it'll be a good document. We have a lot of equipment that was not maintained over the last 3 years. No surprise, we have a mechanic. A lot of criticism. And a lot of vehicles are not working correctly. And it's a problem. And some of them are significant problems. So this morning around 9 o'clock, when I was meeting with Bob, he got a call on the radio, the grader crapped out down on Perry Road. It was blowing hydraulic fluid out of the transfer case. Okay, did they get it going? Yeah. Did they get it fixed? Maybe. They don't know what caused it, but they got it going and it's not doing anything wrong at the moment. But it was abundantly clear when we had the CIP committee meeting, I think it was yesterday, that needs to be replaced as soon as possible.
Yeah.
So I am going to talk for a minute or two about the CIP. What does that mean on the CIP? a new grader is $314,000. We didn't have a we didn't have a grader on that budget for another 7 or 8 years. Because the life of a grader was supposed to be 20 years. That isn't gonna work. So how do we get 314,000 if we're only putting 160 in and we got 6 vehicles to replace? The answer is, it's a really good question. In the CIP budget, it is front loaded. What does that mean? It means that Bob Cushman wants so much new equipment right now that it means replacing something over 6 pieces of equipment in the next 2 years. It's a lot of money. So he came in with a proposal a month and a half ago, arguing for lease purchase. Historically, the town has not gone with lease purchase since they paid off all the debt back in 2010 and 11. The problem is, if you don't do something different with the CIP budget on highway, you don't have any equipment. You can't buy $1 million worth of equipment, 160,000 a year going into it. Doesn't work. So I've been working on those numbers for at least the last 4 or 5 weeks. We've had a fair amount of discussion at the CIP level. Bob has come in with a number of different options. I think he's gonna have more before next week. I did share with him this morning that the CIP program actually works if you put 1 piece of equipment on lease purchase for 10 years. That request I made of you is really important.
I have the numbers.
Okay, so if we put the grader on a lease for 10 years, what does that do? And the answer is, it takes all the heavy lifting out of the first 5 years and spreads it out over 10 years, which balances. It needs more money. Any way you look at it, it needs more money in order to pay for this equipment. The cost of the equipment has gone up. So what we used to have was 160 or 170,000 for a 6-wheel, 180,000, 190,000 for a 10-wheel dump truck. And now we got 213,000 for a 6-wheel and 270,000 for a 10-wheel. Grader is also, it's about $30,000 or $40,000 more.
And
So,
there's an 18-month waiting list to get a new one.
yeah.
Okay, today.
So the CIP
More than that.
committee asked that we rebuild the model, so it's rebuilt. And I think it's a better model. The model now allows the department, it allows the CIP committee to set what the investment strategy is gonna be. In other words, how much a year you want to increase the CIP budget for that equipment, for that department. There's another factor that's built in that says, how much is the cost of the equipment going to be? They do not have to be the same. In some cases, they are. When I built the model, the question came up, how are we going to know what the right amount is for the increase? And I told the CIP committee that the easiest way was go online. So I went online Wednesday morning, and I found 4 sources. 3 of them were government sources, and the last one was a private sector source for people selling equipment. And the private sector source said that the average increase over 20 years is 4.4%. Over 10 years, it was up around 5%. So on the CIP committee, the model we're using is either 4.4 or 5.7. It depends on how volatile the market is, and highway is the most volatile. And that one's in at 4.4, and it may have to be adjusted again. The rest of them are in either 4.4 or the 5.7. So as I said, and if we have time, I'll try to give you a little bit more detail on them. All I can tell you is, for the first time since the 1st of July, we have a CIP budget that accomplishes the task of getting a whole bunch of new pieces of equipment, maintains the primary funding method as being capital reserves that are funded by vote coming out of the unassigned fund balance, but does recognize that because of the nature of where we are right now, we've got to have one lease. That lease would not continue as a lease with the next grader. There would be sufficient funding 10 years out So that if you wanted to buy a new grader, which don't think we should do it every 15 years. But if we had to buy a new grader 10 years out, the money would be in the bank to buy that grader. That's actually pretty good news. Now, the rest of that revenue sheet. I hit the two important pieces on the front side, and that is, in this year's budget, we got $250,000 that was unexpected from current use penalties. We got another 136 that was unexpected because the state of New Hampshire was generous. On the backside, I am proposing, and I don't know if it'll go anywhere. I am proposing that we put the dump stickers in. That was a proposal last year and the year before. And the reason is, and get rid of, we have a charge of $10 a household for hazardous waste. What I would do is require everybody that gets a sticker, to get the sticker, it'd be good for 1 year. And it would be $10. So it generates more revenue. Is it critical? No. What hasn't occurred correctly was a vote by the voters, a long time ago, before my time, and Al Poznanski was one of the ones that led the charge to do it. That was to take 25% of all the revenue from recycling and put it into a non-lapsing account. So for the last 7 or 8 years, we put in $5,000 a year into the non-lapsing account. So as of, I think the beginning of the year, and you may know better or I do at this point, but I think it was $15,000 in that account at the start of this year. This year, we have coming in from revenue from the sale of recyclables, $30,000. That means that number that will go into that account, $7,500 a year. When you look at the CIP budget for the transfer station, that money covers all the equipment for the next 20 years. So it guarantees that recycling equipment is being paid for, and trash equipment. It doesn't distinguish it. All of it would be paid for based on the revenues coming in from the sale of recyclables. So recyclables are primarily the mixed recyclables that have been going to Maine, and scrap metal. Scrap metal has decent value. So that's where the money comes from. So that is a proposed change. It's halfway down on the right-hand side on the second page. It says 15,000. It's there for discussion purposes. In the past, it has not had 2 votes on the Board of Selectmen to do it. And the logic behind it is I pay my taxes and give me my service. That's all well and good, but it also means that we have to pay the hazardous waste, which is not cheap, and that would take care of that as well as the equipment costs. Down at the bottom, there's 2 pink numbers.
Mike, just a sec. So you're saying that the transfer station sticker?
Yeah.
Would take care of at least the bulk of the equipment cost?
Yeah.
Okay.
All.
Yep. Gotcha.
Okay, I mean, not all new equipment, don't get me wrong.
Sure, right,
But
right.
instead of paying 17,000 for a trailer, you pay 50,000.
Right.
Instead of paying 20,000 for a tractor, you would pay 50,000.
Do you have a general idea if the amount of people who use a transfer station now who have stickers actually paid $10 a piece for the sticker? How much would is it on here? Am I missing it? Or-
That's what that gets us, is 15,000. Sharon, how many dump stickers do we have? 6,000, 7,000? We got 7,000 dump
But a lot of
stickers.
people get repeat.
Yeah,
And so that you'd have to answer that question too, like if they paid once, can they get a replacement
Yeah,
sticker or
so-
is it for the sticker?
No, they can't. So we have 7,000 stickers out, but it's been over 6 or 7 years. Okay, so then you look at, all right, how many people are actually using it? And we've done counts, like in particular on the weekend. And there should be at least 1,500 users. There's almost 2,000 households. So the assumption is that there's at least 1,500 users.
Okay.
But if it isn't essential, I don't know. I mean, we can try it and see what happens. Because it's not going to make any difference in the first year. It would make a difference as long term to make sure we can cover costs.
So my apologies to the committee if I'm missing something, but I just want to ask so I understand where I'm at.
Yeah.
So we're saying that the $15,000 generated from, say, this went through from the stickers will pay for the transfer station equipment on a yearly basis?
You can see it in the CIP, when we do that next to the CIP. I adjusted what's in the CIP to the transfer station.
So is that, you're saying you would then ask for a vote to move that into the capital reserves so it would be there to fund equipment when we need it? I think that's what he means, Dan. Like not just buying new stuff every year, but setting it aside and.
Putting it aside.
Yeah.
Having a bank account, separate account,
Right.
can't be touched.
And we already have that account.
Yeah.
So the way this would work is this is on the revenue side. Okay?
Okay.
So if we don't budget that amount in the revenue side to support the general fund budget, then it's unspent revenue, okay?
Okay.
There's nothing that says you can't use that in the following year to put that money into, into the capital reserves. It's not capital reserves, into the non-lapsing account for the transfer station. So it'd be revenue in one year would support the next year's money going.
All right.
In years past, when the select board did not move forward with institution of a fee, was there any discussion about people dumping instead of buying a sticker? Like, did anybody think
Yes.
that,
Actually,
oh, well, I'm not buying it, so I'm just gonna throw it on the side of the road if you're gonna charge me $10?
That was.
So- part of the answer is they're doing it now.
Yes, they are.
So, I think that the feeling was it's likely to have some, likely to have more. You know, if you're worried about it, then allocate some of that money for cleanup. We have a line in the budget, in the recycling budget, to clean up trash. Or, houses that are decrepit, and actually, we're gonna be using some of that money this year on the enforcement for junkyards and subdivisions.
Yeah.
So that would be another way of funding it. Remember, this budget works without that money.
I'm gonna get that.
It would also work better with the money and provide cleanup money for the other properties. So it's there for discussion purposes. 15 grand isn't gonna make a hell of a lot of difference with 500 bucks.
So 15 grand plus the sale of recyclables.
Yeah, we already got that.
I know, but that would be in addition to. Okay,
Okay, so that makes a little more sense. It's the 15 grand on top of the 35 grand you were just talking
Well,
about.
7,500 from the sale of recyclables
Okay,
and 15 grand from stickers. And the idea was to cover all the hazardous waste costs.
okay.
It was not specifically to cover cleanup costs, but that's certainly a legitimate use.
but you've got 16,000 for mixed recyclables.
What's that?
That's
Yes,
7,500,
but I got scrap metal. Those are the two revenue streams.
that's 30, those two together.
So 30 times 25%.
Okay,
7,500.
Oh, I see.
I don't want to sound contentious.
That's fine.
And the last thing, I'm not looking to try to get a heated discussion going. But how is what is it, 22,500 roughly, about $22,000 to $23,000 a year? I mean, we've spent a good share more than that this year already, or equivalent to that, but we've got a few pieces that are really on the verge of breakdown and need to be repaired or replaced. So how does it work, Mike?
Okay, this is how it works.
Okay,
We haven't had a mechanic do jack
yeah,
for 2.5 years.
right,
This year, I spent money out of other departments in order to get the equipment fixed.
Yeah.
Okay? The truck is in good shape.
Yeah.
The trailer for trash is in good shape.
Yeah.
So the only other question is the new trailer, okay, but so leave that alone for
I'm talking
now. Let me keep going.
okay,
So the way this thing works is that you need to have some flexibility in funding. You don't want it to come out of the taxpayers. You gotta cover household hazardous waste, which can go up or go down depending on how many people show up.
Hmm.
And you do have to clean up messes, and we've done it over the last 5 or 6 years. And right now we got 2 on Route 4 that are already on the list for cleanup.
yeah,
So, this provides money to do it. As long as you don't spend it up front.
Hmm.
Okay, it will be there at the end of the year and carry over into the next year. The revenue for recycling is budgeted and is counted next year. So in there, you see it's like 16,000 and 14,000. And I fully expect that 16 or 14 is gonna come in. So I expect to come in, that's 30,000, so we would take a quarter of that and put it in the non-lapsing account. On the stickers, I don't know what it's gonna be, nobody knows until we actually do it.
Right.
It doesn't work fine, we try it, we bag it and go elsewhere. We can manage hazardous waste costs by only doing one collection, so that is manageable either way, whether we have a lot or we don't have a lot. And the cleanup, this is the first time we've really done cleanup in 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
And that's gonna run probably 7 or 8,000 to clean up those properties.
Yeah.
So how it works is, it's revenue that we ordinarily have not been getting.
Mm.
It's unexpected revenue in the sense that if we have excess revenue at the end of the year, which we're gonna have this year, then that would go back into the general fund. If we wanted to take it from the general fund and put it into the non-lapsing, we would do a warrant on it, say, will the voters vote to raise and appropriate the sum of whatever the number is, $10,000 to come out of the sticker fee revenue that was left over at the end of the year and not used, to go into the non-lapsing account for hazardous waste and recycling. So it's a more of a variable system. And it is not something that's absolutely critical.
I understand the concept. I just don't, I mean, we need 2 new compactors right now virtually, and
Yeah.
so how does that come out of?
Remember that there was a separate grant program that starts in about 2 months that would fund new
Right.
equipment.
Right, that we're looking to be able to get in
Yes,
the
and
spring,
we're
correct?
talking about getting a brand new compactor, a brand new truck, well, brand new to us, but a
Yeah.
much newer truck. A brand new compactor, but a much newer truck.
Yeah.
And a much newer trailer.
Yeah.
And that would help us a lot. I mean, that's 100% grant. So, and I've been told that we would score well on that, so that's what we ought to do.
Okay. Gotcha.
And,
So-
you know, this is not cast in stone, this is.
Sure, yeah.
Day one.
So providing we've got, and that's been my point, honestly, is if we have a good foundation to start with, we can then work with that with smaller numbers like this, but if we don't have a good foundation of the new equipment, then,
Okay,
but I'm
so
with you.
look at the bottom
We
of
can
that
move on.
column,
I'm good.
and it shows in pink that we would get $220,000 from the trustees and trust funds. And that is in keeping with what's happened in the past, and it would come out of the unassigned fund balance. Are we gonna have enough in the unassigned fund balance? Oh, yeah. We're gonna put something in the order, if you look at the second column from the right, and then go down below the bold number, 4,888,000, the next number down is $534,000. That's the anticipated surplus this year.
354,000, you mean?
500,
Yeah, where's that?
no, 354,000.
Yeah.
Is the anticipated surplus this year. That's a lot of money.
Thank you, current use.
Yeah, thank you for your use. We have no idea what's gonna happen next year, so I'm not assuming it's gonna repeat itself.
So I will say, not to be a thorn, but it's a discussion that I've been having off and on with Michael Reese and some other people that, you know, a lot of the current use that we took in, if I'm correct, and I think I am, came from the backside of Goose Pond. And if they drain Goose Pond, they're not gonna be selling those lots. They're not gonna come out of current use. We're not gonna have that money. And the chance of Goose Pond refilling on its own, the general consensus is it's slim to none. So the tributary that feeds into it doesn't even have enough water to really be tested on a regular basis.
Is
from what
that
I've-
something you got from experts?
Yes, well, experts, I don't know,
Speculation?
from, it's from committees, it's from,
DES, it's
From
whether.
DES.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering.
right, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my point of it is we should keep in mind as a budget committee that those numbers probably won't be there like they are now, because if you drain Goose Pond, they're not gonna sell that land. And the
Dan, if
chance
you
of
look
the pond
at-
going back is slim.
If you look at the top of the first page.
Yeah.
Where it says current use change tax, I only got 45,000 for this year,
Okay,
and that's par for the course.
Yeah.
Okay,
understood.
and there's other points to be made, but not worth it.
Sure, okay,
All
Yep,
right,
understood.
but we need to use that money to buy us time. You know well that on the CIP, it's all front end loaded. We're buying way the hell too much equipment at the beginning.
Yeah.
So the only way I can deal with that is to take any of the surplus monies that we have and pump it into the formula for the CIP during the first 5 years.
Right.
That buys us time. And in the model, which I don't think you want to see tonight, but there is a model that the CIP committee hasn't seen. But that model works fine.
Okay.
It means that as everything is balanced all the way through the 25 years or 20-year cycle. So everything is fully funded. It is different in one respect. It has a lease of the grader. The grader is $314,000.
Yeah.
It would be hopefully a 10-year lease, which means instead of doing a 7-year lease, so it's a straight commercial lease. We can stretch that over another 3 years, which gets rid of the front end loading. It means that we can spread that over 10 years, not 7 years, which makes a huge difference. And we need to put more money into it. So we are putting more money into it. And the more money going in is about $100,000 up front. And it would continue there forever. But that's also a function of the new formulas, which have inflation rates for equipment and inflation rates for funding and all that. I think it accomplishes what Bob wants to do, which is get new equipment. It accomplishes the historical use of pre-funding by making payments into accounts, capital reserve accounts, to cover the cost. And when you will see that sooner or later, but the CIP committee will see it first. And when you look at it, you will see on that grader, yeah, it's a 10-year lease. And I don't know what the terms are. I'm gonna get those from state. If they're what I think they're gonna be, then at the end of the 10 years of a piece of equipment that should last 20, at the end of 10 years, that grader is fully paid for and we have enough money to replace it in the 11th year.
And theoretically, it should go another 10.
It should go another 10. So what it does is it guarantees no matter what happens on costs, we got a fair amount of production. Is it fun? No. So if you look at the second page of the revenue page, you'll see that the revenue is expected to require 7.87% in new taxes. So that's what I put it in, 7.8% new taxes. So there's two of those numbers, and down below it, it would change the tax rate from 619 to 668. And on a $150,000 house, it would amount to $73 increase.
Per
on the
year?
house for the year. And it's all well and good to try to cast this off on other people. Most of the other people aren't around anymore, and a lot of it had to do with equipment. Equipment is a major part of it, trying to keep the faith with employees to make sure that they're getting, the cost of living adjustment, you saw that on the big budget, which was 1.074, 7.4%, is a lot less than what everybody, including our employees, think of it. But that's what the Bureau of Labor Statistics has said for our area in this country is it's 7.4%. And I hoped a month ago when I gave gave the board, the selectmen, a budget draft. I said, we didn't know what the cost of living was going to be. And I said, I hoped it was dropping a point. That's about what it did. It dropped a point. And the reason is we already gave an increase back in September of last year. So a chunk of the increase everybody else is counting was already paid last year. So that's it. Yes, Ellie.
Yeah, so, when you say 7.4%, I assume is that an annual, like from a year ago to now, today, or is it, what point does it stop and end?
It should be, from the third, where the numbers are on the second page. It should be the increase necessary to raise enough money in 2023 to pay all of this.
Well, that's not my question. I want the CPI change. I'm just trying to figure out from what point to what point are you talking about the change in the CPI?
September to September.
Okay.
Okay. It's for August to August, but the report comes out on the 13th.
So it'd be from September first to September first
No.
of this year?
The report is from September thirteenth of last year
Okay,
to September thirteenth of this year.
okay,
And anytime you want a copy of it, I'll make them
yeah,
available
I
sometime.
can look it up.
Good.
I just need to know because I wasn't sure.
Look up the Northeast region.
So this isn't for, because you won't know till the end of the year, obviously.
We're always behind.
Yeah, you're always,
Right. We have no idea what's gonna happen next year. We have no idea what's gonna happen between now and the end of the year.
okay,
We just know that there would be a true up a year. from now.
Right.
Probably not down. We've never dropped the CPI.
so is this specific to Canaan or how
The
far,
Northeast.
is it Grafton County, is it New Hampshire? How,
On the adjustment,
no, when they talk about the CPI for our area, what exactly do you mean by area?
Northeast.
Northeast, New England.
Okay,
Northeast region. Yeah, from what I understand now.
so it's not that specific. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, good, thanks.
That's it.
Any questions?
May I make a comment?
Sure.
As the website person I'm speaking now, the new guy, Bob, has been very good about. I don't have to ask him, he comes to me every week and tells what he's doing, so he's trying to let the public know he's putting the service out there. As a budget committee, you are welcome to do the same thing, you are welcome to say, we're very interested in saving you money, or we're doing this service, or for whatever you, so remember that as a committee, that you can put stuff on your page that will help the
The
public. to
town will
know.
let you know when they vote.
Yeah, right, and to help them vote better, you can put good information on
Yeah.
there so that they feel like they're getting the value for their money.
While we're talking about that, when you do that website, you will get names of people who respond, not just 4 respondents, no names.
Are we talking about the RSVPs?
Yeah,
Okay,
right.
sure.
And that way we can look at the screen to see if they did indeed
Sure.
want it, or whether they're just
Yeah.
pumping it up.
So I was gonna ask this before we leave. So if I get an RSVP, I just show up, or do I call you and say, hey, I have RSVPs, do you want me to come?
Yes, please let us know.
So I just let you know and you
Yeah.
decide if I'm coming.
Yeah, well, yeah, well,
You-
if there's no, right, if there's nobody there. There's
No,
no
but if
sense.
I get an RSVP, it's not an automatic that I'm coming, or it is.
Well, what do you think? The committee still runs this.
Yeah, and you
And
should
this
do
is
this at the
going to
end
be
after
me.
just.
I still believe in the committee. Yeah,
I think we should have an amount, like if one person wants it, I don't think we should be doing that.
we can't do this over the internet.
We're
Just
we're
don't-
literally trying to kick the community members out of a program that we've
So we're
introduced
trying
them
to save,
to for
we're
2
trying to
years.
save some money, Dan. Well, I know, when you go, well, it's only $50.
No, I
If
didn't
we
say
do
it's
that
only
every-
50 bucks.
every line
I said
item,
it shouldn't break the bank. And we're not doing it with
it's
every line item.
$400 for
Right,
the year.
so
not 50
I'll
bucks.
volunteer 100.
Well,
I
that's
mean,
not what we're talking
we're
about.
trying to keep the community involved in this, and they have been,
And it's an open.
we already voted,
Yeah.
I'll shut.
meeting.
So I think that if you put the option there, that if someone RSVPs, that we'll have it available and they do and we don't, that really sends a bad
Oh,
message.
I agree.
So
I think we should make it available, but
I-
I also
right.
want to see them on the screen the night of the meeting,
Right.
and not just calling up saying, hey, I want Zoom, and then they don't bother Zoom.
If we just deal with that as it happens,
Yeah.
but I think the spirit is that if they request it and it's one person, we gotta make it. available.
Oh, I agree with, you. Yeah, I think
I
one.
mean, that's how we're gonna handle it on the
Yeah,
planning board, I
yeah.
assume.
I guess what I'm really asking is, do you want me to let you know I'm coming, or just show up?
No, let us know.
Okay.
And I'll, let Ellie know, and Ellie,
Yeah.
can you take this on, or I'll do it, I don't mind.
Yeah, I think it's better if you, because you're the chairman.
Okay, if
Really,
you let me
it's up to
know,
you.
and then I'll pass it on to all the individuals, we have 1 hour.
There may be times when one of us can't make the meeting and we need to Zoom, we're
Yeah.
sick or
It
you have
it could be,
family
it
or,
could be.
so if one person needs it, you do it, that's all, but if they
But
don't.
what I
They
don't
don't
wanna
ask
see,
me, you
I don't wanna see committee members sitting at home in their jammies drinking a wine. That's what I don't wanna see, and I saw that on Zoom at the selectmen's meeting. When they zoomed in on the people coming in and they're sitting in their jammies having a glass of wine. Because they didn't wanna bother, and these people weren't that far out of town. They didn't wanna bother coming to a selectmen's meeting, and that's what I don't agree with. Dan,
So I understand, or I hear your point, Dave, but I was sitting beside you the night that we witnessed that, and it was private residents sitting in their home. If they want to be sitting in jammies drinking wine while they're listening to the board meeting, who am I to tell them not to? And then my other question is, are we going to put, when we post our meeting, are we going to list on there every time we post a budget committee meeting that it is available by Zoom only upon request? So we're gonna list that every time we
Yes.
post a meeting for the budget committee?
I think that's a good idea, don't you?
I think so.
Okay.
Otherwise, how is anybody gonna know that they can even attend by Zoom?
Right, I think it's by request.
And I
I'm
think
gonna
that's
call
what
it
John said.
reservation.
Right,
Yeah.
reservation,
Yeah.
by
It's
reservation.
like going to a restaurant. You call
Yeah.
up, you reserve your
There's one
table.
other factor that nobody raised, and do it with a great deal of trepidation, but. There's another organization, Canaan Neighbors Helping Neighbors, that has an ongoing dialogue about what goes on in meetings, okay? There is a fair number of people that go on and look at the videos of the selectmen's meetings. Not just once or twice, but 115 times. Okay, so people look at them after the fact, even if they didn't attend the meeting, they're still looking at them. You would lose that period unless there's an assumption you're gonna do it every meeting. I'm not saying you are, I'm just saying that that's another issue.
But that doesn't have to be Zoom. You can put it on YouTube. You can put it, you can do your own.
Who's
video.
gonna put it on YouTube, Billy?
The school does it.
The school has paid employees that do that. We're talking about whether Sharon at the $50 a meeting is gonna do that.
Just
Because I won't be here, and I can guarantee you Ted or Ned is not gonna do it. So the question is, I'm just pointing out that if people expect to go on and look at it the week after, because they've heard all sorts of things. They won't see it unless somebody requested that
Well-
there be a new.
The newspaper is even doing it.
Just
Do whatever you
And we
think
all know
is right.
how much of a fan everybody in the room is of the newspaper.
Yeah.
They're
All right,
not.
Sharon.
So that, it's interesting that Mike brought that up, because that is my second question. So far, you've only ever had one Zoom, I believe, put online. Is that right? At least one or two last
I
year.
don't remember any.
Do you want tonight's online or you don't want tonight's online? Because if it's
think they
got,
should
if
all
it's online, it starts the precedent that people are gonna expect it. So if we don't have them online this year, then you don't have that. precedent.
That would solve that.
So it's up to you guys if I'm putting it online, because it did get recorded tonight, because I am here tonight, but.
Should probably poll community about that.
So I was just gonna say that, and
Any
um,
citizen can take a meeting and post it if they want to without us having to pay for it. So why don't we just let people do their own thing and let them post it? If they're interested, they can come and record it, they can post it.
We're gonna report AZA issues at some point.
I guess I would be interested to know what the public, we have two public attendees, what is, what's.
Angie, what do you think?
About Zoom.
Yes,
I think that Zoom is a great, easy to use platform that pulls public interest in. But I think you have to have it regular so that people know that if they need it, they can get to it. And I think that you need to have your recordings posted on your website somewhere so that people know that they can get in there as well. I think then you offer your live people, not just people who can't make it in person, but people who are working and would love to watch it later. But if you're not consistent with it, people are not going to use it.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't become a habit.
Sal?
I think that absolutely the results of this meeting, what goes on, should be posted so that people can see it. That's a given in my mind. Not making that public is unacceptable in my mind.
Well, it is public. This
Well, I
is an
understand.
open
I mean,
meeting,
people could
so
come,
we
but
don't
I'm
want to
saying
use
I think it
that
should be
term, we're
posted.
not,
I'm
it's
talking
a
about
closed
getting
meeting,
the-
because it is not. This
That's
is
number
an
one.
open meeting and
Man, if
anybody
you
who
want
wants.
to get younger people involved, they're most likely, if they're gonna do it at all, they're gonna do it on Zoom or something like that. They're not gonna show up here. They have lives, they're busy, they're dealing with their kids, 7 o'clock on a, what the hell we up to today, Thursday?
Thursday already.
They can't come, they can't make it. So the only way that they could possibly make it would be to see it on a Zoom.
Is there any more general public here? Is everybody else on?
Why they
this?
would always-
Well, until COVID came, I mean, nobody knew about Zoom.
Yeah.
With that, there are.
Nothing until then.
The truth of the matter is.
Wait, Angie was talking.
There are other services other than Zoom. I mean, I'm assuming the town uses Microsoft platform, you could do Microsoft Teams, and that's as easy to use, and you send an invite out and people can join too. So there's other platforms, you don't have to use Zoom.
Good point.
Your meetings are that, how long are these meetings generally?
Normally a couple hours and
So they're
at
too long
best.
for the free version, but
And
there
I
are.
like to run them
Zoom
as
doesn't
fast as
cost much.
possible.
It's me that costs.
Right, so I think that's the,
Zoom is free and people in town know Zoom, but that's what we use for all the other meetings. There's no usage of Teams or Skype or any of the other platforms in town.
I think it's important to note that when the two people from the general public here were asked what they think, they were both in favor of Zoom. I think that should be duly noted in the minutes, if you would, please.
I did make that.
Thank
Oh,
you.
I think they want Zoom, but they also want Zoom recorded and available online.
Right.
Right.
It also uses up a lot of space on the webpage.
Well,
Just put a
you're on the
link
cloud.
to-
though.
It's, yes.
We can put a whole lot
It's on-
more on.
it's
There's a
on
lot of
YouTube.
stuff there.
Well, that's what I was told, so.
I mean, we take minutes. Maybe this is just antiquated, maybe we're antiquated now, I don't know.
Well, the minutes are available online,
That's what I'm saying, so like,
and that's a good point too.
you know, open meetings, we have minutes, I mean, my big thing is I just, even last year, how many people were on watching this thing? I mean, they weren't. I mean, maybe there's a bunch of people that sit around and watch these videos and get all worked up when they're not here. and
But I
we
think
can't address it,
The
but
select board has a different
Right.
following
that's true.
Right.
Because they're
than
making
the
policy.
budget committee.
Right.
I mean, when you go to a select board meeting, there's what, 10, 15 people on?
Yeah, at
Zoom?
least, I think we've had as many as 50 county in.
Yeah, well, that's why I said, and the controversy in the select board is far more than it is here.
Ellie has her.
Yeah, well, we didn't have, because I've been attending select board meetings on a regular basis for the last 20 years, and I can tell you from personal experience that usually there was only 3 people at the most at a selectmen's meeting until COVID came along. It wasn't until COVID came along that people didn't have anything else to do, that they decided to say, well, let's going to come to a select board meeting.
I
And
think
that
that's
was,
true.
that was in person as well as,
There was also more dialogue saying that you really need to watch this, you need to be part of the solution to the problem, you need to go online. One.
Dan was on there yapping.
Yeah.
Dan was on there yapping. We can say it. I was
So
asking
that's
people to
been
attend.
a good chunk of it. But
Yeah.
clearly, if you've got 50 or 60 people that are showing up in the real world and online, that's pretty damn good for a selectman.
Yeah, man.
but you don't have it with the budget.
But
We'll see if we
we
can
haven't
change that,
anybody
Alex.
kill each other yet in this meeting.
And as far as that goes, even on the thing, you can attest to this because you've been on the budget committee too. There's how many people have attended the budget committee in person even before we had Zoom? Was it
Well,
beginning?
when I first
You
went
can
on
count
in the
on-
nineties, there was
Yeah,
there was probably, and we were at the fire station, I would say, on an average of 20 to 25 a night.
Hmm.
Yeah, and that's real, but there was a lot of conversation. And things on the budget were not, and that was pre-CIP. When the taxes leveled out, that's the idea of the CIP, instead of doing this every year, it leveled out the tax rate.
But there's never gonna be a year to have that. Controversial battle.
But that's what I said, when there's a lot of controversy, there was a lot of people there. Probably the last 10 years I was on,
I think
if you had 2 people,
right, for the whole year.
which we're doing tonight. If you had 2 people, that was a crowd.
Yeah.
And what I read out of this is, that means you're doing a fair job and the people are okay with it. Otherwise they would come to the meeting. And I do understand that people don't have the time now that they had back in the 90s and early 2000s when I was on it.
There was no Facebook and no Twitter.
Yeah.
There is another possibility just for the hell of it, and that's to say, okay, you got, I don't know how many meetings between now and the first of the year, let's assume that there's 5. So if once a month you had a meeting that was on Zoom, there's a recap of where the process is. That might help. So you could use the others as work groups. Just throw it out as an idea.
Any more questions?
I think $400 is a pretty short amount to just arbitrarily disconnect the
It
ability
takes
to the
a
general.
100 pennies to make a dollar.
If it doesn't make dollars, it doesn't make sense, right?
Well,
That doesn't always
I
happen.
mean,
And the reason we
But
have
the-
more people
the
attending
people are
now
looking
is
for us.
on budget, on select board is not only because we have contentious things going. It's because people feel more welcomed and now the meeting is now at times where they can attend them when they get out of work, and the board has reached out to the public and asked them to attend, and we've come from not having Zoom and being in a room where you're lucky to be able to get 3 or 4 chairs out at the table to being in Zoom and in a real venue, so to speak, for lack of better terms. So there are a lot more reason for involvement that I personally am hearing from people without asking them. Feedback from the community. There's a lot more reason for involvement than just that people are interested in what we're arguing about.
and I think the select board meeting at 5:30 is a harder board to go attend, or a harder meeting to attend than the budget committee, which we meet at normally 7 o'clock. Is easier for people to get home from work and attend than the select board. And I think that's why the select board has a bigger following, and that and the controversy that's in there. Yes,
Yeah,
Ellie?
I was gonna say, because they meet at 6 o'clock now, yeah, they moved it back to 5, but that's why I think a lot of people are cooking dinner, and I think that's part of the reason why you get a lot of people on Zoom, and that was my other complaint when I've been on Zoom. There's an awful lot of people with a lot of noise in the background that you can't, that I have a hard time hearing. 'Cause
It's disruptive.
I can't hear a
Yeah.
lot of what's going on.
Sadie.
Zoom.
I move to adjourn.
There's,
I
so
second.
tell me if I'm putting this one on.
I think so,
I think so.
don't you? I think it should be online. If we record it, it'll be online.
Absolutely.
Well, I have a motion to adjourn.
Seconded.
Second, all those in favor? Those opposed? Abstained?
Have a good night.
All right, we'll meet on 6 October at 7 o'clock here, and we'll wait. I'll let you know.